Good morning. We are finishing up our chapter D today. We know our key terms for this chapter. Monarchy is the political system in which supreme power or sovereignty is held by a single person. Remember, that's having a king or queen. Here in the United States, we have a president, but he is not the sole power for the United States. We have the executive branch, but we also have the legislative and the judicial. So they all work together. When you have a monarchy, you have just the king or queen who is ruling over the country. To anoint means to dedicate to the service of God. To mourn is to feel or express sorrow or grief. And wisdom is knowing how to live out what is true, right, and just. So our first section that we read about was the people asking for a king. Remember, they wanted to have a human king like the other nations. So that human leader, not just looking up to God and having faith that he's going to take care of you. They wanted to have a person here on earth who is their leader. God warned them that you're getting a human. Humans, they sin. There will be problems. And they said, we don't care. We still want a human leader. So they got their human leaders. Then we learned about how Saul was not a good king. So God chose David to become king because he looked at his heart, knew that he had a good heart. So David is anointed to become king. But then we learned that David is human and he makes mistakes too. And remember that he fell in love with Bathsheba. So he sent Bathsheba's husband off to war so he would be killed so Bathsheba could become his wife. So not a good choice. Today we are going to be learning about Solomon, who is the wisest king. Some of us might remember the story of Solomon. We are going to go through the Bible so we know the exact story so we can figure out the true and false. So we are reading in 1 Kings, so make sure you're in 1 Kings chapter 3. So there are 2 books of Kings, so make sure you're in the 1 Kings, 1 Kings. Chapter 3, early promise of Solomon's reign. Solomon allied himself by marriage with Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So just like we learned about in social studies, how the traders would marry in and become kingsmen with the American Indians, same thing happens in other countries, in other areas. People will align themselves through marriage, become allies with other countries. So that's what Solomon did. He married into the Pharaoh king of Egypt's family. So their 2 countries could be allied. So he married the daughter of Pharaoh and brought her to the city of David until he should finish building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. The people were sacrificing on the high places, however, for up to that time no house had been built for the name of the Lord. Although Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father, he offered sacrifice and burned incense on the high places. The king went into Gibeon to sacrifice there, because that was the great high place. Upon its altar Solomon sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. In Gibeon the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night. God said, "Whatever you ask, I shall give you." Solomon answered, "You have shown great kindness to your servant, David my father, because he walked before you with fidelity, justice, and an upright heart. And you have continued this great kindness toward him today, giving him a son to sit upon his throne. Now, Lord my God, you have made me your servant, king to succeed David my father. But I am a mere youth, not knowing at all how to act. I, your servant, among the people you have chosen, a people so vast that it cannot be numbered or counted. Give your servant, therefore, a listening heart to judge your people and to distinguish between good and evil. For who is able to give judgment for this vast people of yours?" So Solomon is the son of David. David, we know, made some mistakes with Bathsheba and Uriah, but he did have a good heart. So he did understand that what he did was wrong and he repented for it. So he was a good king. Human makes mistakes, but as humans, we need to ask for forgiveness. So he was making up for the mistakes that he made. So now his son Solomon is going to become king. And Solomon is saying, I'm young. What do I know? Please help me, Lord. Please help me to be able to pass the right judgments on people. Please help me to know what's good and what's evil, what's right and what's wrong. So what is it of our key terms? What's he asking God for? Tristan? Wisdom. So he's wanting the wisdom to know how to be a good leader. So instead of asking God saying, hey, I'm going to be king, can you please help me become powerful? Can you help my country become the mightiest country? Can you help me become profitable and make money? He's not asking for those things. He's asking for wisdom so he will be a good and just leader. The Lord was pleased by Solomon's request. So God said to him, because you asked for this, you did not ask for a long life for yourself, nor for riches, nor for the life of your enemies, but you asked for discernment to know what is right. I now do as you request. I give you a heart so wise and discerning that there has never been anyone like you until now, nor after you will there be anyone to equal you. In addition, I give you what you have not asked for. I give you such riches and glory that among kings there will be no one like you all your days. And if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and commandments, as David your father did, I will give you a long life. Solomon awoke. It was a dream. He went to Jerusalem, stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, sacrificed burnt offerings and communion offerings, and gave a feast for all his servants. So God's rewarding him, saying, wow, you're asking me for wisdom. Instead of all the other things that you could ask for, you're asking for wisdom so you can be a good leader. So because you're asking for such good things, I'm going to reward you and give you the riches that you didn't even ask for. I'm going to make sure that you have the wisdom to be a good, true leader, but I'm also going to give you other benefits. I'm going to give you good stuff because you're a good person. Solomon's listening heart. Later, 2 prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. One woman said, by your leave, my lord, this woman and I live in the same house, and I gave birth in the house while she was present. On the 3rd day after I gave birth, this woman also gave birth. We were alone, no one else was in the house with us. Only the 2 of us were in the house. This woman's son died during the night when she lay on top of him. So in the middle of the night, she got up and took my son from my side as your servant was sleeping. Then she laid him in her bosom and laid her dead son in my bosom. I rose in the morning to nurse my son, and he was dead. But when I examined him in the morning light, I saw it was not the son I had born. The other woman answered, no, the living one is my son, the dead one is yours. But the first kept saying, no, the dead one is your son, the living one is mine. So let's think about what this story is saying. 2 women give birth just a couple days apart, so newborn babies. Both baby boys, same size, both newborn. In the middle of the night, they were co-sleeping, and the mom accidentally rolled over on top of the baby, and the baby suffocated. Okay, so it was an accident. She didn't mean for it to happen, and she missed her son. She wants a baby, so she's the first mom is saying, this mom did this, and then she woke up and she switched our babies. So now she's saying that my son's the one that died and her baby is alive. But when I woke up, this baby that she gave back to me wasn't my son. He didn't look like my son. The first mom is saying, no, you're the one whose baby died. So that really is your son, the one who died. So they're arguing whose baby died and whose baby is alive. Nobody else is there to say, oh, this is what happened. So it's just between the 2 moms. And they both want a living baby. So let's listen to what King Solomon says. Thus they argued before the king. Then the king said, one woman claims, this the living one is my son, the dead one is yours. The other one answers, no, the dead one is your son, the living one is mine. The king continued, get me a sword. When they brought the sword before the king, he said, cut the living child in two and give one half to one woman and half to the other. That way they each get half of a baby. The woman whose son was alive, because she was stirred with compassion for her son, said to the king, oh, please, my lord, give her the living baby. Do not kill it. But the other said, it shall be neither mine nor yours. Cut it in two. So King Solomon, in his wisdom, knew that if he threatened to kill the baby and cut the baby in half, the baby's mother would say, no, don't kill my baby. Fine, let him live and live with her as his mother, as long as he's not killed. But the mom whose baby had already died, she's not going to lose anything. Her baby already died and said, fine, I can't have my baby, and you can't have yours either. Cut the baby in half. So that's how King Solomon, in his wisdom, is able to know who the true mother is, the one who's compassionate and wants the baby to live. The king then answered, give her the living baby. Do not kill it. She is the mother. When all Israel heard the judgment the king had given, they were in awe of him because they saw that the king had in him the wisdom of God for giving right judgment. So the king Solomon knew that the true mom would not want to sacrifice her baby. So let's look at our true and false. If it is false, please remember, this is how it always is in religion. If it is false, change the false statement to make it true. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. So you're going to make sure to mark it true if it actually happened in this passage, false if it did not happen, and make it true. Those of you at home, we hope you are well, and we hope to see you soon.